How's things?
Yeah, fantastic. Cheers. How's home?
Yeah, it's cold. It's fantastic.
So it hasn't,
Really.
nothing's changed then, yeah?
No, you know something? I was out the last 2 days working with my dad outside,
Mm.
and I came back last night, and I got back about 6 p.m. and immediately I just fell asleep
Mm.
because I'd not had so much fresh air for about 10 years, because I've not been in Scotland for that length of time, because in Bangkok you're usually indoors all the time because it's
Yeah.
so hot, so great to get fresh air,
Yeah, proper fresh air as well, because I'm sure you're near Bangkok's like the capital, isn't it? So imagine
Yeah.
where you are, even though the capital, even if you're in the capital, it's not the capital of like London, where it's like a lot of smog in Scotland. Even the capital is quite small, isn't it? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in Bangkok there's 10 million people, and in Scotland there's 5 million all over Scotland, so it's really condensed and compact, a bit like Tokyo, I imagine, in Japan,
Yeah. Tokyo's a bit crazy, but yeah, for sure. That's great.
Fantastic, yeah.
So I'm sure everyone on here knows you, but could you give a little introduction just to be sure?
Okay, hello everyone. Hello, my name's Ken. And I'm an English teacher. I've been an English teacher for about more than 10 years, and I've been all around the world. And for the last 10 years, I've spent in Bangkok, Thailand, and I've been teaching university graduates to work for the airlines. For the airlines around the world. So I've been teaching them to get jobs, helping them to get jobs. With the airlines around the world. I've been doing that for about 7 years, I think, 7 years now.
Wow.
So before that, I went to Spain, Portugal, Italy, Bulgaria. I worked all around Europe, for about 5-6 years before then. So
fantastic. So are you on holiday or have you moved back? Holiday, yeah?
No, I just came back, had to deal with a couple of things in Scotland, so I came back for a few months. I'll stay here till after New Year, I think.
Oh, that's nice. Nice time to come back, though, isn't it? Because it's Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. I've not spent this much time at home for a long time,
And
so
what do you think?
Good to be back.
What do you think the difference is between Thailand's Christmas compared to Scotland's Christmas?
Well, I remember the first Christmas I had in Bangkok, and it's obviously the first time I was there. I think it was about 35 degrees, and they've got these Christmas decorations up in all the shopping centres, and the fake snow and Santa Claus and reindeers, and I thought it just doesn't. It felt a bit weird, But the longer I've been there, the more they're getting into it, But it's just very, very different. What's it like? What's it like where you are for Christmas?
It's very commercialized, but it's fine. Do you know what? There's some stupid small things that I miss. Like I kind of miss going to like a certain street wherever I've been. There's always one street somewhere where every house is illuminated, and I kind of miss that. Doing that whole thing, because here there's none of that. So, there's some small things like that, and to be able to actually cook a turkey, because here they don't have ovens at all. So.
Oh, really? Of course, yeah. My mum and dad came to visit me about 2 years ago now, and they brought over a Christmas tree, all the decorations, all the lights. So we had all the lights kind of shining all over the housing estate, all the Christmas lights and everything. So it was quite cool. We really liked it, But it's good. We were sitting in the garden at like 1 a.m. and stuff, something we would never do back in Scotland,
Yeah, of course.
So it's good fun.
Here it's like there's no, for New Year's there's no not like an event, that evening where you're going to do something together. I remember it as like a family kind of thing, but there's no kind of event here where you can do something with your family. Usually you just watch the TV until it gets the time and then you go to bed.
Oh, really?
But like the biggest meal during Christmas here, like the biggest commercial meal is KFC.
Really?
That's a big thing here. Like they have it. They cook a whole turkey here because obviously you can't do it at home.
Yeah.
Because it's such a small space, and it's like the big thing's always sold out a day or two before. So. Really,
Fantastic.
interesting.
Really interesting, huh?
So, what got you into teaching?
Well, you know, I was in Spain. My background's in finance. I had my own finance business in Europe, and somebody say we've got different accents here. And I was working in Europe, and I'd always been interested in languages. At school, I studied French, and I loved speaking French. And then I went to Portugal, and I didn't understand Portuguese at all. And I started learning it from the television and such, you know. And then I moved to Spain, and I started picking up a little bit of Spanish. And my Spanish friend said to me, she said, "Ken, tell me about the perfect tense in you know, in English." And I thought, "What are you talking about? I've no idea." And I really shocked myself, you know. I thought, what does it mean? Because I don't know about yourself in England, but in Scotland, we don't learn anything at all about grammar, nothing at all, you know. So all the terminology I was like, I have no idea. So I started looking it up, learning more about my language, and I found it really interesting, you know. And the more I learned about English, the easier it got to learn Spanish. So I started learning more and more and more about English. And then, obviously, in Europe, the housing market and finance market went down. And I decided, right, I'll go and visit my sister I thought I'd do my teaching exams before I left Europe. And I went to Thailand and just got into my in teaching in Thailand, you know. And then I set up my own websites and learning online about 10 years ago. And then I kind of just ended up working in Thailand teaching, you know.
So that's like 10 years ago. And not to sound rude in any sort of way.
Come on, I'm only 21, you know. I started when I was 20.
Yeah, me too. 10 years ago, the landscape has changed a lot since then, within the internet. So you are actually kind of maybe in front of the game of many teachers now who have just started, like myself, you know, because at that point, because it's quite far quite far ahead. The internet's really only developed recently. I'd say in about 4 years, where everyone's really involved of every age.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. What do you see the differences between the two, like between social media 10 years ago to social media now? And did you use it back then? Sorry.
No. Well, funny enough, when I was about 14, I don't know if you remember this, do you? The first computers came out, you know, the Spectrums and the Commodores, and I started like hacking into the Spectrum 48 games, and you teach myself how to program, you know. And of course, where I'm from in Scotland, it's the gaming capital of the world. So they make GTA, Grand Theft Auto, and everything here.
Of course.
And so I got really into computers, and maybe about 99, 98, 99, I started building websites before the .com boom, you know, just teaching myself. And I just kept an interest in it, and then I stopped when I thought, right, I'm going to stop. I don't know why, I just lost interest in it. And it's only been, to be honest with you, I've still got my websites from a long time ago. I've still got them. But it's been only in maybe the last 8 months that I've got right into it again. I started my Instagram account about 8 months ago, 7 months ago, something like that. So it's all brand new for me as well, you know. I wish I'd kept it up for that length of time, you know.
Yeah. But, that's the weird thing in hindsight like that. But, you know, I kind of always think at that moment it wasn't the time, you know. And then but I was the same. Like 3 years ago, I started to do some small bits, and then I stopped for a while. And then I now think like 3 years, wow, you can gain a lot. Like not gain, but like you can help so many people in that time. And yeah. But I kind of think, obviously, at the time, it is what it is. I always say it is what it is, you know. It can't be helped.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm glad. I mean, I don't know about yourself, Steve, but since I've came on Instagram, I'm totally amazed at what's actually out there. You know, it's really changed so much since I was first started on it. Yeah, you know, talking about 10 years ago. You know, I started doing courses about in 2009, I think it was. I started building my own courses, and ever since then, everything's totally changed. You know, I don't know about yourself, but Instagram and all these platforms are, I mean, have just amazed me. Everybody should have an English teacher now. You know, there's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many English teachers to go around.
I think it's fantastic that my first like thinking straight away is like you don't need a teacher in essence. You know, you could do it for free if you are a studious learner. If you're someone who just get into the material, you know, but not everyone does that. And now we know more about the way we learn. So many people learn in different ways. I'm not a book person. I like watching something or doing it. Doing it is my main thing. So everyone does different ways, and now there's everything is available in every kind of way, which is great. Whereas before it was like you had to hunt for someone who might be like 30 miles away, then you had to travel to that person and pay like an extortionate price for the services that may not match your ability. Whereas now you could go onto many different websites and find a teacher that matches you. So
Absolutely.
I think it's really incredible. It's amazing how much work teachers do on Instagram and try and help people as well. That's
unbelievable.
That's another thing that shocked me. And before, when I first came to Japan, I felt like it was more of a competition between each teacher. But now, just doing it on Instagram, it's amazing to see how
it's a big community of teachers, isn't it?
It's
unbelievable.
Like, there's always going to be that kind of person, but there's so much. How can I say? Like the amount of compassion between each teacher is incredible.
Unbelievable. It shocked me. It really shocked me. You know, as you say, I thought you're going to be here by yourself, plugging away. And I mean, I've met a few good people through here. You know, really have. You know, and it's really shocked me. You know, and I'm sure all the students are they can pick and choose who they who they can learn with.
That's the beauty of it. You know, like I had this strange situation the other day. Someone put out a post. I was like, I was really thinking of doing, but I hadn't done. You know, so it was my own fault, which is fine. But then I thought to myself, you know, this happened many times, but this one moment just reminds me, just sticks with me, you know, where it doesn't matter if someone else puts out the same post. It's just how it sticks with the learner, because each learner learns differently. And like we said, everyone's like you and me could do the same thing, and then we will all both hit different people in a different way. You know, something can just ignite in the brain, you know, and that's the incredible thing.
I think I always say this to my students, you know, when in class, you know, some of them are, you know, they've never spoken to a native speaker before, you know. You know, maybe they did, but it's been a long time and they're a bit shy and nervous. And I just say to them, you know, you're going to find someone who you like to speak with and who you like to learn with, and you know, not everyone's going to be to your cup of tea, you know.
Yeah, definitely, 100% so. And I think every teacher has like a certain skill set that can help someone. So there's definitely something for everyone if they are trying that. And
so, how did you get into teaching then, Stu?
Because I moved to Japan. Well, I mean, like kind of, I was doing teaching in a sense, but as in, if we're talking about English, definitely because I moved to Japan and I needed a job, and that was the main reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 100% so. And I don't have I'm completely honest. I'm always honest when I put my post out. I don't have a teaching degree or anything. I just I was just a guy who could speak English, and that worked unfortunately. But as by a week, 2 weeks in, I fell in love with it. Because I work with younger kids and really high level, like bilingual level. But I just fell in love with working with them, and since then, just my knowledge is just, I don't know, it's weird. I don't like books, but suddenly English is just, there's so much that's just gone in, and just, it's so shocking. That's the weirdest thing. Like learning Japanese and seeing, when you learn a new language, there's so much vocabulary that you wouldn't know if you just speak the language,
Mm.
predicate, etc., which I don't use in my normal vocabulary, so I wouldn't have known until I
Uh-huh.
started trying to learn another language. And then since being a teacher, there's so much more understanding now. You know, it's crazy. It's really good.
Unbelievable. I mean, I remember I was in class when I first started teaching, and I was trying to explain the passive voice, and I couldn't get my head around why. I knew how to say it, I knew how to do it, but I didn't
Yeah.
know what it was. You know, I didn't know how to explain it. You know, and since I've been doing this Instagram, you know, there's words and vocabulary that comes up, and I'm really, what is that? You know, and I'm still, as you say, still shocked myself because it's not in my day-to-day vocab, you know, and I have to
Yeah, yeah,
learn it. And
100%.
especially for native speakers who are in a foreign country, because we're not listening to our language 24/7, you know, we kind of not lose vocabulary, but we kind of make our vocabulary kind of a lot smaller, you know.
Narrowed vocabulary.
Narrowed, that's the word
Yeah.
I'm looking for. Yeah, narrowed. There you go. I've lost the word narrowed, you know. So we have to narrow our vocabulary, and it's only since I've been back here that obviously I've got the Scottish dialect as well. That's kind of made my vocabulary expanded it a lot again over the last couple of weeks. You know, since I've been
Did
back.
anyone say anything to you about your accent? Has your accent changed at all?
Where in Thailand?
Since you've been back in Scotland.
Well, it's funny. I was speaking to my dad and on Skype, I think it was, or Messenger, and I said the word time, Time, but I said it with a Thai accent, so it came out tam, you know. My dad's like, what are you talking about? Tam, you know. I remember that tam. Oh God, I need to, because in Thailand they don't really say I. It's difficult for them to say it, you know. So I have to adjust my accent, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something that I come across as well quite a lot. So that's why I was interested. I wondered if many people said to me when I went home that I work in an American school, so a lot of my vocabulary is starting to change.
All
so
right.
I definitely say trash instead of rubbish now. So those small things, but like really is like a big thing, really, at home.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Because it's like I don't know, it's weird, isn't it? Like not competition, but competition in a sense between the two countries. And then as soon as something slightly alters, people see it straight away where you don't normally see it, and it's so interesting.
I mean, when I'm teaching in Thailand, it's obviously very Americanized because of the TV and movies and everything. And first thing I say to them is, right, American, out of here, you know, we don't speak American. Americans don't speak English, you know. We have a little bit of a joke with them, you know. Teacher, why do you say that? That's an awful joke.
Yeah, sure.
But Americans actually, I find American English is probably easier than British English, you know,
100%.
for spelling and pronunciation.
Pronunciation, you know? 1000% is so much clearer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what it is about the British sound. Sorry, I've got to turn my fan on. I don't know what it is about the British sounds, but it's unbelievably, not unclear, but maybe just sounds very similar to their native accent, especially in Asia. So, for example, in Japanese, many of and also the A's and the U's are very similar. Not similar, but the way we say them in the certain words sound kind of similar. So we just have to be careful, I think.
Yeah. So someone's asking there, why have you left your country? Who's that? Hussein Doski. I left my country because I closed my eyes and I said, I want to leave Scotland. And I closed my eyes and I got the map and I went like this. And I ended in Portugal. And I ended up there. And from there, I just began to travel. That was my story. I just wanted to see the world, you know?
You know what? It's weird. I watched live with you and David, and you were explaining this story. And Speak with David, yeah? And he's
all right.
Such an interesting story for me to listen to your path. It really was. Really, yeah. I mean, the journey's been quite vast, like what you've done in that time. Because you said that you never thought about leaving before that moment, yeah? Like you were thinking, like before you moved your first journey away, you were kind of happy where you were, and then suddenly there was a change.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember it. I was sitting at home and I thought, right, let's move. And I think I was saying I had a map in the office, and I thought, right, close my eyes, and it was a map of Europe because I thought the world ends at Europe, you know, and I just went, and I remember Portugal. Where's Portugal? My God, what language? What happens there? No idea at all. Nothing. And 2 weeks later, I arrived with my suitcases, and that was it. You know, I just wanted to. I wanted to live off grid, and not off grid. I didn't. I just because I'd had a quite a high pressure job. I just no car, no telephone, no TV or anything. Just chill out. You know. So I did that, and then I ended up buying a small Peugeot 205 car for about €500, and I put everything in the car, and then drove to Spain. You know, it's 5-6 hours. You know, it took me about 10-12 hours.
It's
really
quite a big step, isn't it?
So
it's quite a big step to move to another place.
You think so?
I think in the moment maybe it may not have felt so, but I think in like the grand scheme of things, that for many people, me myself included, I probably wouldn't have moved if I didn't meet my wife. But before that, I always thought about it. It's always like nowadays I hate the word bucket list, but it was always like a bucket list thing to move somewhere else. Actually, Japan actually was the place, but I never thought about doing it. I didn't think it would happen, you know. And then situations forced me into it. Not forced, but happily forced myself into it. You know, is a better way to put it. And but you know, it's a big step for many people. So it's very interesting that you took that. I think people decide, but then don't do these days. So for you to decide and to do is really, really impressive. I think
what I've learned, I don't know about yourself, I think what I've learned is the more that you think about something, the less chance of you actually doing it.
100%.
And you know, and it becomes scary and scary and scary and scary, and you know, and then you can put it off. And I think sometimes okay, I want to do it. Let's kind of do it, you know. And so I was spontaneous and young, I guess, you know.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it is like you can get comfortable again, can't you? So I think it's very easy to get back into the swing of things. But no, I think it's a great step because many of the learners here will probably be looking to learn English to move to another country. You know, I don't know how often you get that, but in the past I've had that quite a lot. And it's interesting that step, taking that step to move, especially to a different place where you don't know the language. You didn't know the language before you moved to Portugal, yeah?
I had no idea what language they spoke in Portugal. I had no idea at all. And I watched 3 Men and a Baby. I got a TV after about a few months, and I watched 3 Men and a Baby with Portuguese subtitles, and I just started learning from that. I was like, okay, I recognize this word, and started learning it, you know. And then I went to Spain, and I got told Spanish and Portuguese very similar. Didn't understand anything at all, you know. Nothing, not a word, you know. So, but Spanish and Japanese, the phonetics are very, very similar, right?
I don't know about anything about Spanish, just the biggest problem. But it's quite different to English anyway. I know that much. And I thought in Spanish, well, most European countries have a similar style of language, don't they? Not
yeah, I mean,
because of the main structure is reasonably similar, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you've got the Latin languages in Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, Romanian. All of these are pretty, like my friends in Spain could understand Portuguese, they could understand Italian and Romanian, etc. You know, English as well is half kind of a Latin language, you know, and Germanic and everything, you know. But the phonetics with Japanese and Spanish, have anybody said that to you before?
Because I've never needed to cross those paths. And no one's ever mentioned it, so no.
All right, okay.
I'm sure there probably is similarities between many languages, you know. I'm sure there was just one at the start and then suddenly it somehow developed into different ways, so.
Japanese must be the weirdest language. You've got a mix of Chinese, you've got your Japanese, you know, and if you want to say something, you say it in Chinese, or I don't get it at all, you know. I don't understand that.
I think it's overcomplicated in the way you're thinking. But they have the same, how can I explain? There's 3 alphabets, There's
Oh
72
my God.
letters. There's 72 letters in two of them each. So there's 144 to learn. And then the third one is character based, which is the Chinese side that you're thinking of. Now,
Uh-huh.
there are similarities. Some Japanese people can understand some Chinese characters, but
Uh-huh.
that basically they have their own phonetical system, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
What way to say it apart from that phonetical system, and it's not the same as Chinese. They developed it themselves, which is why they have the two other alphabets that are 72 characters, and
Uh-huh.
then each symbol has created its own sound in essence, and builds from that. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's a mess. Like the not a mess, but it's difficult. The third alphabet's like over 10,000 characters, so English is a piece of cake.
What? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
How about time?
Well, Thai's a tonal language, you know. You can ba 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 ba, you know, cow 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 cow, which could mean white, it could mean chicken, it could mean news, it could, you know, depending on the tone that you put it in, you know. But I think a lot of foreigners kind of overcomplicate it because the Thai people will know based on the context. You know, based on the context, where they know if you say cow mangai, which is chicken and rice, you know that they're not saying white; they're saying chicken. You know.
Yeah, I understand.
So
That sounds more similar to Chinese than Japanese does, because Chinese is,
yeah,
I guess, Mandarin is a tonal language.
yeah. It's the same in Thai, you know, and it took me a long time to get my head around that what was going on there, you know. But working with the students every day, they pick up the language, pick up words, you know.
Yeah,
Fairly
same.
easy, you know.
Yeah, I get that.
Know?
How did you feel about learning a new language? Was it quite a daunting task when you went to Thailand?
What in Thailand?
Did it feel daunting?
I can't. No, yes and no. It just sounded everything because I moved to Bangkok. It was busy all the time, and there was a lot of English spoken. And I went there with a kind of attitude with I know everything, you know. And it wasn't until I'd been there for about 2 years, a year, I thought I need to start integrating more into the Thai language. And so I went to Thai school and started learning the language, and I had to go to the government every year and do a speaking test and everything, you know. So it was quite daunting, the speaking test. I can imagine, you know, like the IELTS test, etc. So I had to do the speaking test, and it was very simple, you know. You know, what food do you like? And I had to reply to them, you know. It was, but at the time, it's very, very scary, you know. Am I saying this correctly? I don't know. So I knew exactly how my students feel,
there,
you know. Absolutely, and you know, if you fail it, then you know it's a big deal if you fail it, you know. Especially if the government are doing it, because I was a teacher, you know. Especially if the government were doing it, you know.
Did the language have anything to do with your teaching? Are you teaching whilst using Thai, or do you just teach via not immersion? Yeah, I suppose immersion, in a sense.
What do you mean at my Thai school?
Yeah.
It was just a Thai teacher in the middle of the floor, and there was all these foreigners, and they would just go through the books, and you know, you would repeat it, and you'd see how the structure was. So they were just teaching you to basic introductions, you know, to the language.
And do at the school that you were at, what do you think of the textbooks?
The school that I teach.
Yeah, what do you think of the textbooks that you've used whilst you've been in Thailand? Because in Japan, there's kind of like a mismatch. There's some like very, very, very bad ones, and there's some like very good ones. So.
Well, ours are fantastic because we make them ourselves, you know. No, well, the way I teach is I teach specifically for university graduates who've just finished and they want to move into working in the aviation, you know. So it's very much English for business, English for job interviews, English, English for culture, etc. So there's very specific topics and vocabulary that we have to teach. So we actually build our own books and teach them something very, very specific, which works for us.
No, I think so. I think the thing is with textbook is it's relying that you will teach from that structure rather than you teaching what you think is best for the students you have. So we actually do the same. So
yeah. I think as well, the problem with textbooks I find, and it's maybe just my teaching, is I find they're very generic, and I feel that if somebody's going to learn it, you have to make it very personal for them, And a lot of things I do, I don't know about yourself, but a lot of things I do in my classroom is I make it very personal. I say to them, tell me your biggest achievement. Tell me a time that you were scared. Tell me a time this happened. So we're giving them, what's your 5 years time, what you're going to be doing. So we're giving them something very specific to think about. And we're giving them the vocabulary and the structures. And then they have to kind of piece it together and start talking about themselves, which is very difficult to do. But most of them really, really do it,
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying completely, 100%. The examples in textbooks are they are what they are, aren't they, really? Because they're a textbook made for all. So they have to make a situation that at that time and place probably felt perfect, but they never age well. I think that's the worst part about it.
They are. And I generally feel that, I don't know about yourself, but I think textbooks they're just a guide. They're nothing more. They're just a guide.
Completely right. I mean, I can go on, please.
I can imagine. I mean, when I loved going to my Thai classes, but the teacher would just go through the book, and I spoke a couple of languages, and one of my friends from Switzerland spoke a couple of languages, and we were finding it quite boring because we understood how to learn a language. But there was people there that didn't know, and obviously we have to make the class slower, So it was just going through the books, and we thought, I wish it was faster, I wish it was more specific that we can use,
That's one of the worst things about textbooks, really, is that one thing that I had a problem with when I was learning Japanese was I'd go to one textbook, I'd learn up to like level 5, find it too difficult, then come back down and have a break for 2 months, then go back onto another textbook, a different one, and then do the same thing again, feel very good about myself, and then maybe promote myself one level and then stop. So I feel like textbooks are based like that because they have to be, because they're for everyone. But any teachers literally do like, okay, this is lesson 1, and then they don't base it around the person they're with, and they assume that this is the structure we'll follow. I think that's very old style, isn't it, though?
Absolutely. I think one thing that certainly works for me with the students is I'll teach them kind of 3 lessons, and then what we'll do is we'll take 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2. So we're always kind of repeating things, I found that really worked for me when I was learning Spanish. I would take it so far, and then I'd go back to the beginning again, and keep going through it. And I think a lot of students, what I find is they don't do a lot of self-study. So we have to do the self-study again in the classroom and revise what we've been doing, I find that some students, they come to class and they come cold because they haven't studied what we've done before, So it works for a lot of students, a 3 step forward, 2 step back,
Yeah. Have you at any point found that frustrating, or like?
No.
Go on, please.
What do you mean, the students? Go on.
No, please. I'd rather you say before I say. So, because I think if I say something, then it's going to just. It's like when someone asks you tomato or tomato, and I just always say the second one, because the last. But that kind of situation. So, so do you think that? Have you ever been disappointed the fact the students haven't self-studied themselves, or what do you think on that?
Well, because you work in a school, right?
I work with kids. It's a little bit different, but I also did a bit of online work where this situation came up quite a lot.
The reason that I love teaching is I don't feel it's a job. I feel it's more than, I don't do it for the money. I do it because I like to do it. you know, and who's that? Take the bull by the horns.
Mm.
Uh, I, and I've only the students I teach are there because they want to be, you know, and most of them are very, very, very good, really good.
That's good.
And but there's been a couple of them that come to class and they haven't done anything, and I think to myself, well, you're holding up the class here, you know, because you're not doing anything, you know, and I kind of have to ignore them, and I have to go to the students who have learned, you know, who have done the work, and by the second or third lesson, this student here has brought themselves into the classroom, you know, and started doing everything, you know.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. How many students in a class?
I teach pre-intermediate and intermediate level. Pre-intermediate down here is maybe about 6 to 7, and this one, the higher one's about maximum, I think, is about 12. You know, but there's much more group discussions there. You know.
That's nice, though. That's nice. That's a nice level. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
I found that situation coming up a lot one-on-one, but like I think like my thing is just it is what it is, you know, and it always is for everything. And many students' time. There's many factors that goes into learning, and I think once you've learned another language as well, whilst you're going through life at the same time, you realise those factors. So not everyone can do self-study, etc. I don't feel like it's a big burden. I think I'm being paid for a job, and that is, I'll tell them, look, it'll help. It's helpful. Don't get me wrong. You'll go faster. That's your choice. We can review a little bit and then move on to the next thing, and then see if anything sticks. Work on from there. But you know, I've seen many teachers get a bit frustrated with that fact. So it's quite interesting.
I think. Yeah, I mean, and this is for a lot of students, is that you have to find something that you enjoy. If you don't enjoy studying, then don't do it. But if you're studying a language, find something in that language, find a topic that you enjoy, and focus on that. You know, and that, you know, if you're not doing that, you're not going to learn. It's going to become boring, and it's going to in one ear and out the other. You know.
100%.
I mean, when I was learning Spanish, you know, I got to a stage and I thought, right, I need to push myself more. So I started making dialogues with myself, you know, dialogues about being in the cafe, in the bank, in the restaurant, wherever. And I would start building conversations around those topics, you know. I mean, for example, I had to go and rent an apartment, and okay, I thought, right, how do I say this? So I wrote down a dialogue, what I'm going to say on the telephone, and what are they going to say? How can the conversation go? So I wrote it all down and I practiced it. So when the time came to speak in Spanish, hola, buscando para, and I started speaking in Spanish, I was very, very confident, and I was, you know, and I could do it, you know, and it was, when I came off the phone, I was over the moon, you know. I was really, really so chuffed with myself that I could, my first telephone call in Spanish, you know, I could do it, you know.
Well, that's the thing, that many people get that kind of issue where they don't know how to approach each situation, but that's a good way to do it, because even though you're approaching each situation that you come to, you're also getting the vocabulary, you're also getting some practice to hit those points, and then because in essence you over practice, you will be able to do it anytime, because it's retention, isn't it? So I think it's
absolutely.
So absolutely. Let me just fire backwards, because many people have asked questions.
I've got go on, yeah.
Please, sorry.
No, carry on.
Someone asked the question, what's the difference between, maybe we can fire these quickly, past simple and present perfect?
Go for it.
Basically, someone answered, but it's a bit of an average answer. So one doesn't have has or have. Yeah, that's true. 100%. One is it happened in the past. One is it happened at a point of time in the past that's referred to in the answer. So,
I generally say that for the past simple, we've got a specific time. I went to the shops yesterday, and present perfect, there's no specific time. It's the action. I have been to the shops, you know. So that's kind of, if you have keywords like ago, past simple. You have keywords like already, present perfect.
Lovely. And do you want to explain take the bull by the horns?
Take the bull by the
That's how you
horns.
used it. Yeah.
Take the bull by the horns is you make a decision, and when you make the decision, you go to it 100% and you take control of that difficult decision.
Fantastic. Did you have some more? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Go on.
Did you have some more, something else to add? Have you got some questions? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few questions that came through on my IG about today. There was somebody asking what nepotism is. Nepotism.
Wow.
You know nepotism?
I don't know I can't give you a dictionary definition. Let me put it that way.
Nepotism is when someone you give favors or you give priority to your friends and family. So, for example, So you have a job. You're the owner of the company, but you don't promote the best person. You promote your friend. Nepotism, you know.
Yeah, sure.
There was another one that asked me, "Where am I from?" I'm from Scotland. Huh? Where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Essex, but then I moved to Devon, so I have a mixture.
Right. Very, very south, you know.
Yeah, super
You've
south.
You've got your own language in Devon, haven't you? Is that Cornwall? Is its own?
I mean, some people do, I'm sure, but there's I suppose it's the original Gaelic. I'm not really sure. But Gaelic is the main. Is the
isn't it?
Subcultured language, yeah. But it's not there anymore. Just like some people, some older people, like Welsh. Welsh isn't really there anymore. You know,
Yeah. Some days Fatima's asked, tell us about types of phrases.
What kind of phrases?
I think what they may be meaning is we have idioms, which are like I guess hidden meanings.
They're like a bunch of words put together that have a different meaning to the words that were there originally.
Yeah, we've got expressions which just basically tell us how to speak, if you like. Someone's asked there about society and community. I answered this on my IG last week. What's society and what's community?
Society and community. Community is smaller, isn't it? Society is a general term for a larger area.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Society is general, community is more specific. Now, somebody said, "Do and she." Why do native English speakers say "do" and "she" together?
Do and she.
Yeah.
In what? I'd have to know the context a bit more. So.
I think it's like music, you know, songs and stuff, or slang, where maybe they just kind of shorten it. Yeah.
Do she?
Do she? Not does, but they've said do. I guess it's
possible. Like, you know, English is interesting, and it's like an evolving language always, isn't it? So I kind of question. It's difficult. I kind of question how many native speakers speak like a textbook. You know, and like what is correct English if the majority don't actually speak like a textbook. So it's kind of, although the textbook's fantastic and it is, in a sense, is great for structure, but in terms of like do and does, is it although it's probably incorrect, if it's mainstream, is it incorrect? It's just like the dictionary adding different words each year, you know. So
it's absolutely. I think, as you say, it's, especially with the advent of the internet and everything, you know, it's kind of language is really evolving really quickly just at the moment, you know. Is this hello? Somebody said hello to me there. So it's really evolving really quickly, you know. But generally, for grammar wise, do and she won't go together. No. You know,
100%.
Definitely not. How to not forget vocabulary? Somebody's asked me this one. I just put an Instagram post on today about this. But what would you say about to not forget vocabulary? What would you say?
Everyone learns differently, and there's always like something that breaks you, that you're like, oh, that is it, I get it, you know, something just clicks. But for me, the thing that worked for me was an app that basically, it's called Anki, and it repeats.
All right.
Like one day it repeats. If you get it correct, it will repeat in 2 days' time rather than 1 day, and then a week's time, and then a month's time if you get it correct always. and then it's like a long-term memory thing for me. That worked really, really well.
All right, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Was it Aki?
Sorry?
What was the name of the app?
Oh, sorry, Anki. I'll type it in.
Anki.
Yeah, it's just like
Anki,
just like we used to write down the flashcards, you know, on a piece of paper. It's the same concept, but just on a phone, and
All right.
it can rotate them for you, so it's useful.
All right, cool. I said today that any word that you get, you have to use it immediately. One of the things I don't like in my classroom is when students make a list of 50 words. You know, they write down everything, and I think, oh my God, you're wasting your time here. You know, you're never going to use it.
But that's what we do in lectures. That's just the natural thing, isn't it? You know, so. But usage is the way. Sorry.
I always say to them, it's like maybe make like 3 sentences with that word, you know, and that way you're going to use it more. You know, if you're not going to use it, then forget it. You know.
Yeah,
if you're not going to use it.
But same for us.
You're not going to use it.
Many words where I just haven't used because we don't use like certain terms, scientific terms, for example. We don't use it in our everyday life, so it just doesn't store, or you have to find it very, very thoroughly to be able to get that word back out again. And even with native speakers, the same situations happen. Just we have more retention than a learner because it's at the start, isn't it? It's super interesting.
You know what? One thing I find on Instagram with the IELTS, I see all these pages, IELTS pages, and they come up with this amazing vocabulary, you know, and I think, what does that mean? I've no idea, you know. So get the dictionary out and find out what it means, you know.
Yeah. But it's good. That's the one thing I love about being an English teacher. I've learnt more about my own language. Especially, my favourite thing is learning about between American and British. So,
all right.
So understanding more about accents and understanding more about the vocabulary differences, some structural differences as well. So it's super interesting to see the differences and learn more. And because, you know, it's so split. Oh, that's got to change, isn't it? But it's so split between American and British. It should just be English, really.
What's the... I've been asked this a few times. It's the T and the R sound in American English. What is this?
I'm not sure.
The T and the R. They says, can you explain about the T sound and the R sound in English, in American English? Is this like when you say, oh God, what word can we say? Bar or dire? Don't know. They kind of miss the R out if it's between two vowels.
Words. I think both sides do that.
Often.
In certain places, we do that. Both languages. You know, each one has like its own uniqueness and things. For example, one that comes across quite a lot when I speak, because I naturally speak with a southern mouth, if you want to call it that, and I don't pronounce TH correctly at all.
You do.
I use that. And
is that local to your area?
It's not local. It's like it's actually not just south. It's actually Yorkshire, as I found out once as well. But it's most southeast use this TH fronting, apparently it's called, and it's got everything. So yeah, super interesting. So for example, someone's noted a couple of words. So train, try, truck. TR sound. The R sound. That's interesting.
Yeah, in Scottish, we really pronounce the R sound. It's called a rhotic accent or something, a rhotic accent. You know, train, try, truck, you know. Whereas the English, they kind of throw the R away, if you like, you know. So it becomes like twain or twy or truck or something.
Train,
something
try.
like that.
It's interesting, isn't it? There's uniqueness. I think like eventually we're going to get rid of this American and British thing anyway. So for me, it's super interesting, super inconvenient, I think, for many learners, because they feel they have to conform to these styles, whilst you should learn certain parts, but I think it is not the be all and end all, as long as you're clear, you know.
What's the most important thing, do you think? I get a lot of students saying,
good question,
what should I learn, British English or American English? What's better? And what do you say to them?
I would say that for me, just not worrying about, it's tough, isn't it? like in terms of ease, I'd say that American is much easier to learn, as in pronunciation wise. If we're talking about pronunciation, if you're going to learn pronunciation from the American side, do not confuse it with the British. Don't do both. That is definitely a good thing to do. Just stick with one.
What's the major difference? For me, I can't see a difference.
For me,
I'm a
it's
native.
definitely the sounds between the vowel sounds is an issue, because many of my colleagues have noticed that there's a few issues between us. So
Really?
yeah, and it can
Wow.
confuse learners. So it's
Really?
very interesting. Like the A sound is not so clear. Train. Yeah. How can I? Now I have to think about it. But their mouth movement is very open compared to ours. Ours is much more closed. So basically, that causes a bit of an issue. So
Oh, really?
The sounds can sound similar. Like U and A especially can sound kind of similar. Yeah. A and ah. But I now have changed my pronunciation because of being with my colleagues, because I've noticed, not because they told me to, but just because I noticed the difference, and it's very useful for learners. The A and the ah sound can sound very different.
Top.
Yeah, but in that scenario, yeah, there is definitely a difference, yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's interesting. It's yes. I'd say American is easier to learn pronunciation-wise at the start, but it's worthwhile having knowledge of all areas. It's definitely not worthwhile just clamping down in one section, and I would stick to your own. As long as you sound clear, you don't have to copy an accent. It's not a necessity.
Perfect answer. You know, it's something that I get asked a lot, and I say exactly the same as yourself. You know, the most important thing is be fluent and be clear when you're speaking. It doesn't matter if it's American or Australian or you know, British English. The most important thing is that you are clear when you speak. I mean, I've had it in Thailand where they try and have an accent, and it kind of makes them not clear what they're saying. They're too much focused on the sound of it rather than the smoothness of it, you know.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Same.
So fluency for me is much more important than you know, than accents, I think, you know.
I'm not sure, but once I read that Queen Elizabeth said there is British English and all others are mistakes. What do you think about that?
Well, there's Scottish English. That's the main one, I think.
Depends which party you're listening to, yeah.
Someone's asking, how old am I, Ken? I am years old, yeah.
21, he told us earlier.
Yeah, 21, yeah, 21.
So anyway, whilst you're at home, do you miss your students that you teach normally?
You know, you know, it doesn't matter how I'm feeling or anything like that. As soon as I go into the classroom, everything, you know, I love
Switch.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, I love being a Ajarn. I mean, sensei steward. That means teacher, right?
Yeah.
In Japan. Yeah, I've got Ajarn Ken. Ajarn means teacher in Thai. You know.
Right.
And as soon as I become Ajarn Ken, everything goes out. You know, and I love being in that classroom. You know, and it's just really interesting because we're talking about people's lives. You know, we're talking about what did you do and everything. You know, to the students. It's really interesting. And I love it. You know.
Yeah, that's great, and it's amazing, isn't it? Because you feel like you have to then. We say it's not a job, but you have to feel that responsibility when you switch between the two, like coming in and you have some issue maybe, and then you come into the job, because you know, like how teachers, how much we do can affect the students. You know, our attitude.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Absolutely, and you know, as I said earlier, as you say there, it's not really. You have a huge responsibility. You know, it's people's knowledge. You know, it's not as if you're giving them a product or anything. It's actually you're giving them something for here. You know, It's you've got to be totally switched on all the time, you know. And the more you are, the easier it is, you know.
Yeah, 100%. So. Well, thank you very much for your time, because it's been an hour. I'm so grateful.
You're joking, really? Already?
Yeah, definitely.
My God.
Sorry
okay,
about that.
Okay, mate. That's all right. Excellent. We need to do
time.
this again, no?
Yeah, I'd love to. It'd be fantastic.
Right,
is there anything you want to promote before you go?
No, I just want to say thank you very much to you. I really appreciate it. And if there's anything that anyone wants to ask me, just go to my Get English Tips page, and I'm very interactive with all the students. So come and say hello to me.
Yeah, definitely. Please go and check Ken's page out.
Yeah.
I'll put it up after this on a story. Thank you very much for joining. Many people did, so thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you again. Cheers for that, Ken.
Take care.
Yeah,
Cheers, then.